Hello there, everybody. Welcome to episode 107, not 170, Tyler, of the Play to Win podcast, a show we break down the week's biggest gaming news through in-depth discussion. My name is Tyler. I am your host, of course, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Tyler. How are you doing, dude? It's Tears of the Kingdom week, baby.
As I say, I'm doing all right. Listen, it's been a hectic week. My hair's a mess. I got this big ass pimple that I haven't been able to get. But guess what? We got Tears of the Kingdom. It's like me all week that Simpsons picture where it's like do it for her, but instead of Maggie, it's Tears of the Kingdom.
You're sitting there, it's like the Wolverine meme where he's sitting there.
For this bad boy. Also, we've talked about it on the pod, an update on how the Walmart one did, even though it like messed with me because it didn't update, but then I found some people on Twitter having a similar issue, and I figured out I could pull it up on FedEx's whatever their thing is, basically like where you can look at stuff even if you don't have the tracking based off the address. And so then I realized it was going to arrive on Friday, but I didn't know what time, so I ended up getting it from Target because it was a little cheaper, but then it came from Walmart anyway, so I've got to return it. But I do have this sick ass scroll, man. It was worth it.
Nice.
I love it. Best pre-order incentive in the game, and I hate Walmart, so you know it's true. Man, Target, like, you didn't have to pre-order. They had just limited supplies of the fanny pack, and I was like, well, at least maybe I can double dip on pre-order incentives. And I showed up at like 2, and they were already out of the supplies for those. Just nothing. So I was like, man, Target sucks. It's always hard to get those damn pre-order incentives, or not the pre-orders, but the ones they just have day of.
Yeah, when I went to GameStop, because that's where I pre-ordered my copy of my brother's, I actually didn't know that they were doing any pre-order incentives.
Did you get the piece of wood?
Yes, I got the plaque. I got the wooden plaque. It's in my closet. So I got the plaque. It also came with an arm sleeve as well to like mimic Link's arm that he has going on.
Wait, you got an arm sleeve? What the fuck?
It came with an arm sleeve too. That's also in my closet. And then I bought into the hype and I bought the Link amiibo for myself. I've never bought any amiibo, and this is the first amiibo I've ever bought.
My dumbass assumed, like so many amiibos, that it would be rare. And I, like, of course, to clarify, not to resell. I just wanted it for myself.
Yeah.
So I pre-ordered one for me and my brother at Best Buy, and then they end up being everywhere. So it was just like, now I've got to drive all the way out of the way to pick up this amiibo. And normally I could cancel it and could have just got it at Target, but because the day of, they had also dropped some of the rarer amiibos, I ended up getting the Majora's Mask one, and I had like coupons or like the reward certificate. So I only paid like a buck for it. So I've got to go get that one. That one's worth like 40. So got to go get that. But so hold on, I'm kind of mad now because the arm sleeve sounds sick. I feel like for the sake of the edit, go grab it, or at least all
right,
the changeover. Yeah.
All right, hold on. Stay right here. Stay right here. I'll be right back.
That changes the equation.
It's in my closet. Give me a second. All right. It'll take me like 30 seconds to grab it. All right. Or less.
Okay. You're good. Yeah. You can do the editing yourself. Yeah.
Well, my closet here. Let's see. Where I put them? They are. All right, I'm back.
Because my thought process here was the wood was my second ranked slot. Because I was like, not as cool as the scroll, but not bad. Not art print level lame. Especially at Best Buy. Come on, do better.
So here's what it looks like. This is what the wooden plaque looks like.
Pretty nice, yeah.
Just this on the front. Nothing on the back. Just down the front. Solid wood, too. I'm not sure you can hear how solid that is, but solid.
And yeah, that's what someone, Wario tweeted about it. Like, someone had tweeted at him who got it early.
Yeah, so this is the arm sleeve. I actually haven't taken it out the plastic yet, as you see. Still in there. You want me to take it out right now on camera?
If you're like for collecting reasons never gonna pull it out, then leave it. But if you're like, oh, I'm doing it anyways, then yeah, I want to see.
Reasons. No, I just had it open it because I was like,
what you're looking at right now is the face of a man that is jealous because this changes the equation. I might have pre-ordered GameStop if I knew you were gonna get 2 things.
See, I don't think it was a pre-order thing. It might have just been like a while supplies last type thing,
or a your GameStop thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm trying to see where they got this
you're good.
little insert in there. And all right, that's the insert out. All right, it's the arm sleeve.
Yo, that's pretty rad. I mean, I think
Let
long
me put
term,
it
if I
on.
only had to take one, I'm taking the scroll. But
Just gonna put
that
it
is
on.
badass. I'm not gonna
Oh.
lie to you. It makes people that are gonna cosplay way easier. And even though I'll probably never wear it, I still want
Honestly, that's the thing. I don't think I was
because
ever gonna wear it either. But
when we talk about Zelda, I was just like the drip in Tears of the Kingdom. I'll give him that. My man looks cool as fuck.
he does.
And the sleeve is the primary reason why.
Okay, look at this. All right.
That's pretty neat.
It is. I actually wasn't gonna wear it ever, but
He
just because I'm
immediately
not an arm
goes to
sleeve guy.
eBay and looks up how much those things are going for because I want one.
Honestly, I actually never thought about doing a cosplay for Link, but if I love Tears of the Kingdom as much as I am right now, like come October, maybe I'll do a Tears of the Kingdom Link cosplay. I got the arm sleeve right here. I could do it. I would just
Yeah.
need like a glove of some sort for the hand.
I feel like I can't pull off Link, but maybe I'll do some Demon King cosplay
Demon King. Ooh, okay.
because he
Okay.
looks rad as hell.
Okay. Oh man. We're getting hype for Tears of the Kingdom right now. It's gonna be a great episode. This episode, aside from Tears of the Kingdom, we'll be talking about Tyler's final thoughts on Redfall because he finished the game. He has thoughts. He would like to share them. And then
They're like,
after
they're not good.
and then afterwards, at the very end of the episode, we will be talking about Jedi Survivor spoilers because I finished the game literally just before I started playing. I finished it the day Zelda came out, and Tyler, the whiplash is crazy. I finished Jedi Survivor, and then 5 minutes later was playing Zelda. The whiplash was insane,
You were living
but
in the future, man. You were living in 2025.
I finished it. So we were talking spoilers all about that at the very end of this episode. So if you don't want to hear those, of course, after we're done with talking about Redfall or brief mentions, you could bow on out. But stick
I will
around.
probably talk quote unquote spoilers about Redfall 2, to be clear here.
Okay, if you don't want to hear those, then he'll let you
But
know when he's going to
you
mention
should,
them.
like any sane human being, not give a shit.
Oh man, that's all neither here nor there. Let's talk about the main attraction this week, the main event, the juggernaut, the industry changer, the thing that the world stopped for, or at least the gaming world stopped for.
Right? It really feels like that, right?
It really does. It seriously does. The Legend of
It
Zelda.
sucks because, like, obviously the critics. This is just purely from like a vibes hipster kind of way, but obviously the critics were all over Breath of the Wild's nuts right away. But other than that, it felt so special and unique because to be part of that initial surge with Breath of the Wild, because Switches were sold out, baby. The
Mhm.
Wii, nobody had a Wii U. So it was just like it felt so special for that to be the launch game, to play that opening day. And then granted, opening day, I didn't really play that much. Like, ironically enough, I feel like I probably played about the same amount those first couple days as I have played now, maybe slightly more, but then just getting absolutely hooked into it in the ensuing days, it just felt very special. Whereas this is just like, well, I'm one of a trillion right now playing this game, and I'm far behind everyone else as you watch TikToks about people doing crazy, hilarious stuff already.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that this game's going to be better or worse, but just when you talk about your memories 10 years from now, some people are like, they like to feel, part of a movement. Other people are like, I like when it felt a little more unique to me. I felt different events, different things can fall on that spectrum for me. But for games specifically, I think it's better when it feels unique to you. So that's why just opening the opening days already, I have more of a fondness for Breath of the Wild opening.
Mm.
Also, a console launch game is hard to beat. It's just that first thing of like that first special moment of this is all I have.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You said you've only played about 2.5, 3 hours
Maybe
ish
three. Yeah,
around
like
there.
I was explaining to you pre-show. It's hard when you're starting, stopping. I'm sure the damn timer on the Switch has it at like 9 hours because I've just had it pulled up, paused. Work's been busy. I was babysitting my niece and nephew back to back days, um, and that's why we're recording this a day later because I knew because I stayed up till late. My plan was to go to Target to pick up Tears of the Kingdom like right away. Then I was so tired by the time it came. Uh, and I was playing Redfall. I was finishing Redfall because I was like, beat the fucking game. And so I fell asleep, woke up at like 2, went to get it and everything. And it was just like, I don't know, everything got in the way. Couldn't play it nearly as much as I wanted to. So I played like maybe an hour. It was literally, it might have been split actually, like the amount of time per day.
Yeah.
But I just got off, you know, this is, I mean, Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I guess this is light spoiler, but like I got off the tutorial island, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, and to preface this conversation, also like I've played about 6 to 7 hours of the game so far. So preface this conversation in terms of story spoilers, we will be as like spoiler free as possible, although we are still very early in the game.
I do think
So
we should
any
acknowledge like literally the opening minute story portion.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. Like we're in the very opening sections of the game. We have not gone progressed very far in terms of story, but what we talk about in terms of story here, if you consider any story spoiler stuff a spoiler, then maybe like at your own discretion. But it'll basically be talked about just like the basic premise of how this game begins and the framework of the story. For
Because
what
it
we have
drops you
right
right
now.
in.
Yes. So right off the bat, I want to say that this game it starts off and it's very clear it's going to be a very different game tonally than Breath of the Wild was. Whereas Breath of the
Darker,
Wild,
yeah.
yeah, like Breath of the Wild, it starts you off and you are, it's like it has a bit of like a openness to it. We it's like, oh, this is beautiful, this is great. Whereas this game, it starts you off like in that underground section that we very saw in the very first teaser trailer for the game. We're underground with Zelda, under Hyrule Castle. Like things are ominous and everything. We see this wall with these this murals of this war that happened long ago and everything, basically teasing what we will probably face later on in this game and what we'll learn more about as we continue through the game. And then we end up coming across well, I mean, it's Ganondorf for sure. That's confirmed now based on trailers and everything. We come across Ganondorf under the tower, and then as we saw in the trailers, things go down. Zelda ends up missing. Link gets hurt with his arm, and the Master Sword ends up damaged. And then we wake up in one of the Sky Islands, far, far above Hyrule. And then the beginning of the game is very similar to the beginning of Breath of the Wild in terms of you are on a secluded part of the map, and this secluded part of the map is meant to be your tutorial section, similar to how the Great Plateau was. And I'm not gonna lie, this section, I feel like I said it to you before we started recording. I feel like the beginning of the game, and not just the Great Sky Island section, but even a bit after you get past that, I feel like it's more directed in terms of telling you or direct you where to go and what to do and all. But even still, I found myself just getting lost on the Great Sky Island, just like having fun exploring it, like still having that feeling, that freedom to explore, similar to how the Great Plateau gave it to you, but it was still more directed. And I feel like the game Tears of the Kingdom on the Great Sky Island, it's like, all right, hey, we're going to teach you about this, teach you about what's going on in the game, like some of your different abilities, and now we're going to start giving you the fuse ability with these shrines and all. And as you get each one, it kind of nudges you as like, okay, maybe go to this one next, maybe go to this one next. And it doesn't do it overtly, it kind of does it in a way where it's like, all right, you just got out of this shrine, now let's use this ability to get over here and then maybe go down this path. And then it's kind of like naturally, subtly leads you around the island in a way where it's like teaching you new things as you get to each new shrine and new ability. And I was like, it just felt really cool and interesting. I was like, okay, like you're still like giving me freedom to go about this the way I want to, but you're also kind of guiding me around the Great Sky Island in this circle of sorts in a way that the Great Plateau didn't. The Great Plateau was very much like, hey, here's your tower, here are the shrines, go to them however you want to. Like literally get about the Great Plateau the way you want to, however you want to. We're not going to tell you which way to go, direct you which way to go. We're not going to guide you. It's going to be like, hey, these are the things you need to go to them. Whereas here it's like, here's a bit of direction. It's real subtle, not overt, but it's real subtle to me. That's how I perceived it.
Yeah. I to preface this, I like the Great Plateau way more than I like this because it felt like there were more secrets. I it just because these are islands, it didn't feel like the freedom to explore was as fun. It didn't feel like yeah. So here's the thing: the Great Plateau feels less tutorially. Is ultimately what it
Yes.
comes down to.
Yes, it does.
There's a fucking mini boss on the Great Plateau. There's not one here, you know. Well, I now again, and I don't want to say I didn't explore because I didn't feel like it didn't feel handholdy, but it all like I don't know. It's hard to summarize. I'm trying to summarize how I felt about it because I would say I almost felt let down the first hour or two. Not that like there was pressure to be something insane, but I don't think it had quite the same. But to your point, while the Great Plateau felt focused and that it was just like its own unique island, and because it didn't feel tutorially, it felt naturally part of the game. Whereas I was getting excited by the time I was finally leaving this. Whereas like Great Plateau, it was just like, oh wow, there's even more. This is sick. Whereas this one, I was just like, finally, I guess is more how I felt about getting off those islands. And it's not that
Question
I
for
didn't
you.
enjoy my time. Oh, good.
I was going to ask, do you feel like that's because the beginning section on the Great Sky Island is structurally very similar to the Great Plateau? It's so like it's you lose some of that newness, that freshness of, oh man, this is what we're this is like it's opened up to me like this. I can kind of explore it the way I want to. And again, it's also like go to this to get that, go to this to get that, go to this to get that, and like just giving you each your abilities. Do you think it was like that's part of why you enjoy the plateau more than this? Because I can understand that it's a real strong sense of familiarity and deja vu. Like, all right, I'm ready to kind of get out of here. On top of it being
It's
more heavily tutorialized.
I'll say I think that's a portion of it, but I also think I'm just one connected piece more than I am the fragmented island. Like I'll just say this, I
Mm.
think I'm gonna enjoy my time back down on land way more, and I could be wrong, and I'll admit if I was like, oh yeah, I end up liking the floating islands way more. I just don't know if I like based off this already. I'm like, yeah, I do hate when you have to like it's a pain in the ass to get from like piece to piece, or you're just like the way I like figuring out puzzles and stuff like that is not like how do I get over there traversal wise? One of my favorite things about Breath of the Wild is like, oh, I can just fucking climb anywhere. I can just, like I can just climb.
Mm-hmm.
If like I can't figure out how to get there, I'll climb up to somewhere higher and glide to it. Um, and I this is, and I was telling you a little bit earlier. I think some of my worry with Tears of the Kingdom potentially is that things get a little too unhinged, a little too crazy because the toolbox is so much bigger. Whereas I think there was a simplicity to a lot of Breath of the Wild of like, oh, well, here's the puzzle, and you just go, oh, I can just, if I just get my stamina up enough, I can just climb it. And the Nintendo was just like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess if you figured out that you can do it that way, like they just kind of shrugged their shoulders and were like, that's fine. Whereas here it's like the toolbox is you can already tell so much crazier. Like they're definitely pushing you
Yes.
into like, you get immediately off that island and there's like a whole car kit essentially in front of you, and they're just like, or whatever you want it to be kit
Yes.
essentially. But there's the wheel, so your mind leans car slash wagonish,
Yeah.
um, and it feels like they're pushing you in a certain way, and that's okay. I think I was talking about this pre-show, some of the magic of the sauce of Breath of the Wild, and I probably this game to an extent is you do need structure for the chaos to feel fun. Otherwise, it starts feeling like Minecraft or any damn survival game where it's just like, yeah, you can just do anything. Like the structure, the limitation, and figuring out the chaos and the fun within that and coming up with unique workarounds
Mm-hmm.
within that is what makes it fun. Otherwise, it just becomes like, eh, chaos.
Yeah.
Like when everything is truly unlimited, you just start to become like, but now I don't really want to do anything. You
Yeah.
need that like, hey, this is how you do it, and you figure your brain naturally figures out a different way, and then that's when you go, oh yeah, that was cool. I don't have to do it. I can do this my way.
Right. And I speaking to your point of like that worry of man, I wonder if there's gonna be structure here. I was telling you before the show, and I could get into a bit more, now that we're actually in the discussion itself.
Yeah,
I feel like Tears of the Kingdom, at least from what I've played so far, has more structure in the beginning of the game. And I was telling you how when you first get off the Great Sky Island, you land, and like before you even jumped off, they kind of like the camera kind of pointed at like, hey, there's a town down there that you should go to because people there are waiting for you. Um, or like something basically saying, hey, you should maybe go down there to that town. And when you land, that town is like basically a hop, skip, and a jump right away from right there from you. So you go into the town and like there's still a whole lot more structure. Like even when you first land on Hyrule, you can go anywhere you want to, but the game is clearly telling you, hey, go to this town, do what you need to do there before you just go wild because you don't have the main quest until you go into that town and do what you need to do there. You don't have the towers, like those aren't explained to you until you go into that town and do what you need to do. And even once you get into that town, there's you still don't necessarily have every ability open to you on the new pad, the Pura pad or the Puka pad, whatever you want to call it. Like the camera, for example, you get the camera from one of the people that's in there from another main quest that you get in the town. And when you do that quest in the town, it also introduces a whole nother concept to the game that isn't introduced unless you do that quest or maybe you find it on your own. But the game definitely is more structured and directed in the opening hours of, hey, go here, do some of these opening quests first. That way you have, if not the whole scope of the game open to or clear to you, at least you have a majority of it clear and available to you. And then once you have your Tears of the Kingdom equivalent of the Four Divine Beast quest, then, once you have that, maybe once you do this quest that gives you the camera and everything, then, maybe go hog wild at that point. Because now, like, you
Yeah.
have your structure of this is what I need to do. And I'm going to go about this the way I want to, however I want to. At that point, it's like, all right, the leash is off, have fun. So the opening hours, it was very different. And I was enjoying that because it was different in a good way. And I don't know if I'd say also in a bad way. I'd say it was in a good way because it was like, all right, it gave me that focus that I felt, for me at least, the few times I was trying to get into Breath of the Wild, that it lacked for me, that it made me feel like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Like, what, like, I was just like, it's just open. And I felt aimless when I was trying to play Breath of the Wild those first two times. But the third time it clicked for me. This time, I feel like it's an easier game to get into for anyone who might not have been into Breath of the Wild, who felt it was hard to get into. I feel like this one does a better job of giving you that structure for long enough so that until it's like, okay, now that you know what you need to do, here's where you can kind of, what you need to do, what's going on. Now you can actually get into
Yeah.
the fun
So
of everything as you're going along the structure.
it's interesting. I think when we both talk about structure and limits, right? So where I was referencing structure and limits, I guess ultimately is it comes down to restraint. Well, not even restraint, but like because they didn't intend to create this crazy broken game from the start. Um, there's structure within the systems. What you can do is not fundamentally limited, but they just give you a smaller scope of a skill set of like this is how you solve puzzles. But
Yes.
narratively speaking, there is less structure. This is kind of the opposite, right? Like it starts out more handholdy in a sense. But like the systems you have, and I guess that's where I'm projecting, like maybe it goes a little too unhinged. Is it seems like it's starting off so crazy, which is like, here's what you can do. And so it's like, man, what are they expecting later on? You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like that that moment of like just like everything's too crazy. So like it starts off so high so early as far as craziness that everything loses its luster a little bit as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I worry about its lack of structure and focus is ultimately in that like in the systems, in the skill sets they're giving you, and how you, and again, I hope this is all wrong. Of course, I want this game to be a 10, and I don't think anything in the first part is necessarily not 10 worthy. Like nothing is fundamentally bad about the game.
Yeah.
It's just again apples to oranges. Like I liked the way Breath of the Wild approached that opening section more.
Yeah.
But I will say I love the cutscene in the beginning and like how it narratively introduces you to everything more in Tears of the Kingdom. I thought that was super
Yes.
rad. A Demon
Yes.
King seems legit as fuck. Like I'm super hyped instead of just Ganondorf again. Like I've seen some people talk about this is pre-game, so don't worry, this isn't spoilers, but like in the lore, I guess, like Demon King outdates Ganondorf and is kind of like the reason what turned Ganondorf. So that'd be interesting if that's where the game goes.
Yeah.
Um, but either way, I just aesthetically thought it was super cool that it went dark and everything. But then once you like, that scene's done and everything, and you finally wake up, I I thought it was more of an impact moment for me, anyways. Just like immediately, like Tears of the Kingdom kind of goes for the shock factor because I believe you have to jump off the platform right away. Versus this one, it was like
You walk
and
out.
then Breath of the Wild is like you just have that moment where it like pans over and you can see everything. And I preferred that one.
Mhm.
Because ultimately I knew what it led to, I guess. Whereas this one, it was like, okay, they're trying to recreate that same feeling, but then immediately I'm hit with more limitations
Yeah.
by the island structure itself.
Yeah.
So that's just, yeah, thought it was an interesting juxtaposition of like, oh, I like this intro so much more, but now I don't like the tutorial as much versus the other way around with Breath of the Wild, where it felt very generic, but holy shit, once I got out there, this rules. Um,
I want to speak towards the abilities now, actually. I guess that could be like a segue or at least a connection point between you talk about structure and actually talk about these abilities that we have. The abilities that we have, the new ones, recall, rewinding time, fuse, lets you fuse practically any item together with weapons and shields. We have the ultra hand, letting you attach and build, create different things and all. And then ascend, letting you go up through objects and everything. And I really like this set of abilities. I like them more than I did the ones in Breath of the Wild. Now, of course, again, still 6 hours into the game as opposed to the 50 I spent in Breath of the Wild. But the ones we have in this game, this is what I thought and felt in the lead up once we saw that 10-minute gameplay demonstration when they explained and showed us each of the abilities. These, like the ones in Breath of the Wild, felt like uh I guess in comparison, they feel very simple and basic. And that's not to say that they weren't good for what they were, because you don't have any of those abilities in this game. So of course, like the ones that you had in Breath of the Wild, the two different types of bombs, the ice and the what was the other one? I
the
forgot.
stasis.
The stasis, yeah. Like they worked very well for the game and design that Breath of the Wild was, and the position and the situations that it posed for you. But in comparison, these just that we have in this one just feels so much more fun and interesting to me. Um, and like for example, the fuse is the one that you're going to be using all the time. You got a weapon and you're going to fuse another enemy weapon or just another object with your stick to make it now a weapon that was originally 2 damage and about to break after 2 hits. It's now like 7 damage because you attacked a bokoblin arm to it, and now it's just like 25 damage or something like that. Uh, I really like these abilities. Fuse is awesome. The Ultra Hand one is super cool and super unique. It's super creative. I spent, not gonna lie, I spent like 20-30 minutes making a vehicle of sorts. I posted it on Twitter, like the aftermath of it. Spent like 20-30 minutes making a vehicle, and I have B-roll of it. I either played already or it's playing right now. Uh, and like I took all the wooden panels, made myself a vehicle, put some wheels on the bottom of it, took a fan, put a fan to the back of it, attached a rocket to the bottom of it, put the energy cells on the bottom. And I said, cool, all right, let's take this thing for a drive. And I put the control stick on it as well, got on it, and I hit it to activate it. Man, when I tell you that thing, it took off. It took off. And I was like, all right, cool. Except I forgot. Oh, wait, I didn't realize that the regular wooden wheels, you can't turn those. So I couldn't turn the damn thing that I made. So it drove right into a bunch of trees. And then immediately the rocket was done for. The energy cells popped off. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to go anywhere at all. And like, although it was ultimately pointless making it, it was still fun to see, oh, I can like get creative with like, you creative like that with this. It's also aside, like you can use it in, I like the way that they kind of encourage you to use it in like random environmental puzzles as well. So there's a guy that you'll come across, and I imagine you'll come across him across the entire map, where he's working for some person and he has like these signs that he wants to put up for his boss or whatever, right? And like he's holding it on one side and he's like, man, I need help holding it up, it's not staying up. And it's like on the other side of the sign, you have to clearly put something to hold it up. And I think each sign that you come across, you have to put a wooden piece there in a different spot in each sign. It depends on what the sign is and where and how it looks. So it's like, okay, you have to get creative with your ultra hand use of what you're gonna fuse together and how you fuse it to have it fit against the sign so that when you tell them to let go, the sign stays up. And like the first time I didn't really get it with the tools that were near me, but the next two times I was like, what if I do this? What if I just take a regular piece of wood, and then take a longer flat piece of wood so that it's something more stable to attach to, and then I just take it and place it next to the sign. I tell them to let go, and it stayed up. I was like, okay, boom, that works for this one. But what works for one might not work for every other because each sign has a different requirement for what you're going to need to do in terms of keeping it up. So I was like, that's cool. And then even in combat, I was literally actually before we started recording today, I was attacking this like bokoblin base, right? And
Yeah.
rolled up. I said, all right, I'm gonna use ascend because I was lower than it. So I said, I'm gonna use ascend, just ascend myself up to the platform above me, get up there. I saw there were a bunch of bomb barrels. I'm like, all right, cool. Some guys are sleeping here. There's a big guy over there. There's an archer in the distance. Try killing the archer with my regular arrows. I got him eventually, but it took a while. So then I said, all right, I'm gonna ultra hand all these bomb barrels together, pick them up and just drop them on everyone below me because that would get rid of them. Did that, bam. And then the big guy, and then this other bokoblin who actually had a bunch of armor on him. I was like, oh shoot, never seen you before. They're just running at me. So I'm like, all right, how I'm trying to get rid of them the easiest way I could. Try to destroy more bomb barrels. Didn't work out. I missed. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to run around, ascend to another higher platform. That way I have some distance. Because on that platform, there were more bomb barrels. So I ultra handed like 5 of them together. And then I saw the big guy and the other bokoblin coming towards me. So I ultra handed them all together, lifted them up, and just dropped them down right on their faces. And just I killed the armored guy, but the big guy still had some health left. But I was like, man, like this is awesome. And that was what I was excited about with this game as opposed to the last one. It was something I mentioned where you saw in the videos after Breath of the Wild's release of people doing these crazy creative things to take out enemies and all. But it was more a thing where if you wanted to get crazy and kooky and wacky with how you took out enemies at Breath of the Wild, you kind of had to go out your way to do it. Whereas here, it's like it's really encouraged to get creative, get kooky, get a bit wacky and weird, however you want to, with taking out enemies. And I've been loving the way it's incentivizing me to do it. It's ways encouraging me to. Like, I'm going out my way to do these things that I ordinarily would have been like, you know what, I'm just gonna run up on you and just hit you in Breath of the Wild. Whereas now it's like, what's a crazy way I could get rid of these enemies? You know what? Let me like take an arrow, attach a white choo-choos to it so I could freeze someone, make a freeze arrow. Like I'm just getting more creative with how I'm taking out enemies. I'm really enjoying that with this game. Like the abilities here are just so cool. And that's just combat with Ultra Hand. Like Ultra Hand gets even more interesting when it comes to the puzzles, like in the shrines or even outside the shrines. Like it's just so awesome. Oh, he's coughing. Stay alive.
No, it's sneezing. Yeah.
Bless you.
Yeah.
That was a sneeze.
See, that's where for me it differs. I'm like, fuck, is this a monkey's paw situation? Like when everything's special, nothing starts to feel special, right? Like when you like, okay, you can do these creative things, but at what point? Because now I'm like at a certain level, I'm already like, is this just Breath of the Wild nuts and bolts? Like, is this just look, we took this beloved IP and now you can make fucking vehicles in it? And I'm just like, what seemed fun is only, your hubris got the best of you. Because I do like, when you're like, you have to go out of your way in Breath of the Wild to make it creative, I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like, you got to actually use it. Whereas, like, when the toolbox is insane, it's like, I'm almost the opposite. I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I'll just fuse something together and shoot them or whatever, So I think it's interesting the way, and like, I haven't done as much. So I'm like, before I say that, I'm reserving judgment. But like from the tutorial portion, I was just like, okay, so we're already making vehicles. Like I thought maybe we'd have to wait a while to do that or something. It's like, oh no, you want us to do this already? I see where this is going. Like just that cynical part of my brain just being like, yeah, I think this is the curse of iteration in general. Like this is sequels, and I think there's that natural question as a developer, like, do we expand more? How do we expand more when we make a sequel to something? Um, and I think through at multiple, like any kind of video game franchise, you see those questions posed, you see how the developer ultimately solves them, and then you have different sides of the camp no matter what, right? Like there are people that like Arkham Asylum more than Arkham City, for example. And like those are
Mhm.
two the way they expanded fundamentally changed that game. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer necessarily. And already I'm like feeling those vibes a little bit with this game, whether, like you said, whether or not that changes or whatever. Like if I play this 50 to 100 hours, that's a lot of time. You can have a lot of different thoughts flowing in and out. And then how you feel about them as a whole is what your ultimate judgment ends up being. But it's interesting there. I liked the way they expanded Arkham City, even though I did really like Asylum.
Yeah.
Um, but like now I'm finding myself on the like anti expansion, but maybe because Breath of the Wild is itself already a very expanded game. You know what I mean? Taking Breath of the Wild or what standard Zeldas do and like expanding that, and then this is an expansion now on top of that even. So just interesting having those thoughts flowing kind of as you play the game. But again, 3 hours is a very small sample size, and it's not that anything's bad. Like these are all, of course, what the developers are doing is fucking nuts. Like it's hard to create systems like this. It's not like saying these
Shoot.
systems suck, but in the grand implementation of within this universe that matters as far as like for some people how they enjoy the game, and it comes down to how everyone reacts to being presented with certain skill sets. Like I reacted much more positively obviously from the last set than you did. Now to clarify, I do love Ascend. I think Ascend's my favorite so far because it's the
Mhm.
simplest but also the most like, oh shit, yeah, like of course I can do that. You almost forget you have it, and then you just go
Yeah.
like, fuck, how am I gonna do? And then you go, oh yeah, yeah, I got Ascend. Like finding the fourth shrine, I was like, oh, I immediately got there, and unlike I saw some people had issues with this, but because it's kind of like quote unquote hidden, they're like making you think about it a little bit. And I was like, okay, yeah, obviously I go on there, I reverse those wheels, and I'm like, how the fuck do I get up there? I'm trying to climb and everything, and then like after like 3 minutes, I'm like, oh yeah, my dumbass, you have Ascend, and then I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty easy. Um, but yeah, so that's why I do like Ascend. It seems like it's already got some of that like how do I? Oh, yeah, Ascend. And then it's just like very easy, very simple, but also like can be used in a million ways. Whereas everything else is very nuts and bolts. It's just like fuse 8 different things together and blah blah blah. I love the simplicity in comparison of just like, oh yeah, link go up.
Link go up. That's it. Yeah, speaking to like your thing about a said like just kind of forgetting you can do it and all. I was when I was playing, and I do have B-roll of this in the footage as well. I just got a horse, and then I'm like, all right, cool. I saw some enemies, so I went to go fight them and everything. And then it turns out it was one of those we saw them in the trailers. The stone beast, the stone talus things that has like an enemy base on top of it. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, got it. So I immediately ran away real quick. I was like, all right, what am I gonna do right now? So then I was like, all right, let me try like popping some arrow shots. And it wasn't working. I was like, wait, duh. Let me use a
Just
sin to go on top of it and kill the
yeah.
enemies. And once I had that moment, I was like, yo, Ascend, you're too cool. Like I completely forgot I could do it. But it really when it when it could apply to combat situations, it changes how you think about the scenario. Like again, like the boss, like
Yeah.
the what's the one I was talking about before, where I like went into
This
stronghold.
Stone Chalice or whatever, yeah, they call them.
The,
I forget.
yeah, the stronghold actually, the one that I was talking about before, where I was like, wait a minute, let me just use Ascend to get up to this next level and like take care of the bombs there. Originally, like I was thinking, man, how am I gonna get up there? Because like run around them maybe, but no, Ascend, duh, so much easier.
Yeah. It's the most Breath of the Wild ability in that it was clearly meant to just solve one simple complaint, right? Some people had issues with like, oh, well, if we can't climb everywhere, then how are we? And so like clearly someone in the development room was like, what if we just and they were just like, that's great. And then when you apply it across anything, you're like, holy shit, there's endless possibilities. all because of this small solution. Versus like everything else feels like, but what if? And then they pose the biggest thing ever that probably took forever to develop and is technically impressive, but you're like, yeah, but it's intentional chaos versus like that little spark leading to like, oh shit, we can do this a million different ways. That's I think where it comes down to for me.
Mm.
So we'll see if I turn around. We'll see if I have enough fun with it to be like, whatever. The brilliance, I hope, of the game is that I can still potentially like not have to do some of that stuff and play it my own way and still get enjoyment out of the game. That'll be the ultimate test. Or did you build it so much around chaos that if someone wants to restrict themselves, that they still can, or is the game does that break the game? And they're like, no, 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 because is it truly no rules if now all of a sudden me wanting to play with a little bit of rules is an issue? So we'll see. My gut
Mm-hmm.
says that like these are just, but the good thing is this creates there is like a big difference between these two games, right? Ultimately, I want difference in a game. Like, so I'm glad they at least tried something ambitious and it's not Breath of the Wild 2.0. Like, I'm glad there's difference, even if I ultimately don't like the difference as much because they'll like video game developers, I don't want them to feel like it has to be so iterative of each other. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly they didn't want to just do exactly Breath of the Wild again, which I totally understand.
Yeah. I just want to talk about the world real quickly. I'm
Mhm.
only 6 hours in. I haven't really left that main first area that you have on the world map and all. I'm just now starting to expand out of it. But it was really just in there. But from what I've seen, um, I like the world so far. Like this area at the very least. Yes, it is a familiar area, but it's also different in the sense it's like, wait a minute, like I remember Breath of the Wild being here, there being more ruins around. Guardians were all over the place, whereas now it's like this middle section of the map, it's like, no, we're chill. We're chill. We're more calm. It's more peaceful here. I don't have to be on edge all the time. Uh, it's interesting going around and then seeing for just like stuff fall out the sky. The rocks that we've seen fall out the sky. You can recall to ride back up. Uh, Seeing those, but so far there haven't been too many stark differences. Like, oh wow, I remember this from the last one. Aside from like the obvious piece of the main center, um, I haven't gone to any of these other areas where it's like, man, I remember Kakariko Village in the first one. I wonder how it is now. It's so crazy different now. Um, but there are areas on the map, at least that I just got introduced to some where it's like there's a clear difference here, and
Yeah.
it opens the door for a whole lot more possibility that I'm very eager to learn more about and expand and explore and see what's going on with this stuff now. Because I'm just like, oh, that's different right there. That's interesting. That's exciting. It's like a different dynamic and everything. I'm really curious to see what's going on with this right now. Um, and I haven't been to any other major sky islands since the first one. There have been, like I said, rocks fall down and I'll ride them back up. So far, the ones I've done, they just brought me to like a little mini sky island that has a chest on it, and I'm like, all right, cool, get the chest, and I'll jump on back down and go wherever else I want to. But I haven't been to any other major sky islands, but you can clearly see them all in the sky. At least you can see what they are in the sky and all like that. Um, the towers, I've only done the one, but like there have been other towers I thought about going to them, but I haven't. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna go this way and I'll do stuff over there. There are shrines back in this game, and I like the shrines. I feel
I'm
like,
pro shrines though.
yeah, I mean, like I was never necessarily against the shrines in the last game. I like them here. They are definitely testing the brain for sure in terms of what abilities do I use to get through this, or how do I use the abilities I have in conjunction with one another to get through this shrine. There was what I was stuck on yesterday for a bit, where I was like, how do I do this? So I put it on, I paused it, went out for the day, came back, and I solved it in like 20 minutes when I got back home. Not even 20 minutes, only like 10 minutes when I got back home. I was like, oh, got it. And it was more so I was struggling because I thought I had glitched myself out of being able to complete it because of the ultra hand ability. I was like, why is it not letting me grab what I could clearly grab before? But if I ended up making it work and got through it. I was like, cool, fantastic. But I mean, I've seen footage of like people solving shrines in really interesting, creative ways where it's like you got it done, just like in Breath of the Wild, where it's like there is a clear way to do it, but it's like, hey, however you get it done, you get it done. And I feel like from the ones I've done so far, I think that there might, I mean, the ones I've done so far has been what? The four that you have on the Great Sky Island, which is your tutorial ones. I think I've done two combat ones, which are very obviously teaching you something. They're direct how to get this done. I think I've done two or so other puzzle ones since I've gotten to Hyrule. And the two puzzle ones I've done since I got to Hyrule, they definitely are the assortment of use your brain, figure it out. There is, I guess, I feel like there might be like a clear directed way that it's meant to be done, but I've been like, how am I going to get through this? And one of them, the one I was doing yesterday, I feel like I maybe thought outside the box a bit to get it done. The one I did today, it was very clear what needed to be done and easy peasy,
Yeah.
lemon squeezy. Uh, so I'm liking the shrines. I feel like you'll probably like them too. I mean, if you like the shrines of the last game, I'm sure you'll like the
Yeah,
shrines in this game.
I do.
Um, performance, it's also exactly like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's exactly the same. Props to the team for no frame drops when you're going up and down between the island, sky islands and the ground. But man, yeah, that frame rate dips on Hyrule when you're in forested areas again. Ultra Hand demolishes the frame rate, especially when you're making something big. Like as soon as you activate Ultra Hand, the frame rate dips a bit instantly. But like when you're making something pretty intricate and big, the bigger it is, whenever you Ultra Hand it to grab it, like that frame rate tanks while you're using it, like into the low 20s. And I'm just like, okay, this is what we're doing.
The
It is what
backwards
it is.
compatible version of this on whatever the next one is going to be sick.
I hope so. I hope so.
Like, yeah, but this is what Breath of the Wild was. I mean, I never held any bones about it. Like, it
Yeah.
was clearly being limited by the Switch fucking 6 years, 7 years ago, So it's like, of course, this one is as well.
Yeah.
But
Like my
props
Switch
for it
is
not
docked.
being worse so far.
Say it again.
I said props just for not being worse because, like, add more
Yes.
stuff in, you would assume maybe runs even worse now. Instead, it's just like, well, the same pretty much.
It's about the same. It's just about the same way. Uh yeah, I play my thing docked and like I hear that fan going in the Switch. That fan is going while I play this. I'm like, woof. I can only imagine like how it kills the battery playing it handheld. I can't even imagine what
Yeah, I've
that's
been
like.
playing docked with Pro controller the only way. I
Joy Cons
hate
for
the
me.
ones.
I
Huh?
want to get I want to get a Pro controller. I play with the Joy Cons, but I want to get a Pro controller just to
Oh,
have one.
you've never got a Pro controller?
They're like $80, dude. It's not that serious.
They're one of the best controllers I've ever held.
So I've
I'm not.
heard, but I don't play my
Yeah,
Switch
it
enough.
is
I don't play my Switch enough to
worth
spend
it.
that much money on it.
Oh man, I got one kind of cheap. I got one like clearance early on, I think, or no,
Mm,
it wasn't clearance, but I think I got it for it's cheap. I got it for like 50, $60, but
nice.
it is. Oh man, the second I got it early on in my Switch too, I could never in a million years go back to only Joy-Con. Like I do think it makes kind of like a world of difference.
Yeah, I bought new Joy Cons for this though because the ones I had, the right stick was drifting. So I was
The
like, well,
Joy-Cons are just as expensive.
here's the thing. I'd rather have the Joy Cons that I can like use anywhere, wherever, like real easily, as opposed to the Pro Controller where it's like it's a bit more of a hassle taking it around. So I was like, and on top of that, again, I like the Joy Cons. I have no issue with them. So Joy Cons it is.
Here we go. Let's take your gamer pass. All right, I'm gonna take it back.
No,
We'll give this
no,
back to you, whatever you earn.
nope. I will take that right back from you. Thank you very much. Final thoughts, final early thoughts, impressions for Tears of the Kingdom. Tyler, go.
uh, I didn't get to talk about the world really. I do love. I think Nintendo does a good job, or I think the developers found like just such a cool aesthetic with the future tech stuff,
Yes.
and juxtaposing it in the world of Hyrule. It truly is like that. And man, the arm drip goes hard, man. Link looks sick. Just
He
that
does.
tattoo he's got, the fucking arm looks rad. Like the long hair, it feels longer. I don't know. I'm here for it. Yeah, I just think aesthetically, the game and the art style are so incredibly awesome. Like, still 10 out of 10 for that. Uh, and yeah, I'm looking forward to sinking. I hope I can get at least like 20 hours in this next week, if not more,
Mhm.
depending. But we'll see. Maybe it'll only be like 10, 15 ish. It'll be a little bit of a letdown, but I'm trying to cross that 20 hour threshold within the coming week. That way, it'll
Yeah.
be like I come back and I'm like, oh, I'm 25 hours deep. Let's see how I feel about it.
I'm
Yeah.
25 hours deep. I have beat the game at least once. I'm
No,
about.
that's the thing. Like for me, when I roll credits, I'm not a new game plus person. So I'm gonna do everything I want, finally beat the game. Like if I beat it at 100 hours like I was for Breath of the Wild, I beat Breath of the Wild and I was like, I'm done. But I played
So
100 hours. So like I got a shit ton of I mean my the boss fight was cake because I was just so OP at that point.
yeah.
But I had a blast doing it. So I'm gonna take the same approach. I don't plan on doing like multiple runs and shit. Um, I do it all as like one big shot.
Nice. Nice. Well, my final thoughts so far. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would have a year ago. Hell, I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would have in January. It was March that turned me around on this game so hard. And from March on, I was like, wait a minute, I think this might be it. This might hit in a way that I was not expecting. And I know earlier in the year, we did our games we were hyped for 2023, and I said, well, maybe Zelda will be my dark horse game. As I played this, I was like, oh man, I think I was onto something there. I think Zelda very well could end up being my dark horse game of the year, depending on how it goes from here on in, depending on how other games turn out. But honestly, I am loving this game so much more than I ever did Breath of the Wild. It's just hitting me on every level. The story is what I've done with so far more interesting so far. The gameplay mechanics and abilities, I'm really excited by them. I really enjoy using them. And that pull that I talked about, never really feeling so strongly of like wanting to explore the world of Breath of the Wild, I feel it so hard with Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't know if it's just new game hype. I don't know if it's the excitement of, all right, it's I have all these new abilities that for me to explore the world. I don't know what it is, but I'm just really feeling that pull to explore Hyrule in this game that I never felt before. So I don't know. I'm loving it so far. I'm really enjoying it. I'm so excited after we're done recording today, edit this thing up, start doing laundry, and just bam, pop in a bunch of hours today. So it's going to be a great time. Of course, we'll be talking about it more and more over the next
It's gonna
two
be what
episodes.
it'll be the like what we're playing, yeah, for the next two episodes for sure.
Essentially, it's going to be that. So,
Yeah. That'll be interesting. We may not have beat it by the time
oh, I'm not going
pod's
to have
over.
beat it for sure.
Huh?
I won't. I won't have. That's a
Yeah, I
guarantee.
mean 2 weeks for fucking it just depends. If I'm like not feeling it as much, I could wrap it up at 50 and potentially be like done
Yeah.
at the end of the pod. But like realistically, if I play more than that, if I go the Breath of the Wild track, I will not be done. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I do want to have it wrapped up by the time Diablo hits. So maybe I'll have like an extra 10 or so. Yeah, I mean, like I
That's
could.
like that's only a couple days after the podcast ends.
No, it's June 6th.
The last episode goes live on it's like a week.
Well, no, the 27th though is the last day we're recording.
And the last episode
So
goes live on the 29th. So
it gives you, like I said, like 10 days. You get like
yeah,
9 days.
roughly.
I mean, you can sink a lot of gameplay in the 10 days. So
That's true. That's true. All right. Now, Tyler, you finished another game, Redfall.
yes, I fucking did. Oh my god,
Tell us
this
about
game.
Redfall.
So I want to preface this by saying, I like last week we were both very much like, this game is mid, so mediocre, just so boring. The second half of this game pushes like, here's the thing: if you're playing it with your friends, I'm sure it just feels like, and you're like having a good time. I'm sure it just feels like more of the same. And oh,
Hmm.
la di da. And it's just like, it's fine. It literally probably just feels, and it is mostly just the same game. But this game has a fucking refusal to end. And it's not just like, oh, hey, well, yeah, but you're messing up. Like, the game puts objective, like, hurdles in front of your way. The fact that, like, when you dip the difficulty down to just like the easiest one, when you're just like, I'm just trying to plow through and see credits, man, that it doesn't get objectively like all that much easier. Like some of the boss fights, you're like, that was probably would have been a lot more annoying, not on this difficulty. But like the wanted meter essentially, which is like the vampire gods meter, the
Hmm.
first half of the game, I mean, it just didn't feel like it got set off that much, maybe once or twice. The second half of the game, it's like you do a fucking side mission or you do just like one little thing, and then it's just like it moves a lot. And it's like, man, I saw Rook like 7 fucking times trying to close it out the game. And it was just like,
Mm.
this guy, I'm getting so annoyed. And then it cranks up the amount of vampires it's thrown at you seemingly. It it's clearly not it's clearly not designed in any way. Like, I know that like you can complete it solo, but it felt so much more of a pain in the ass having to complete it solo, even on the easy difficulty than I imagine it is on any other
Yeah,
difficulty with your friends. Um, it
that was a
is
worry of mine.
the gameplay just gets or not the gameplay, the game design gets in the way of just like someone that's just there for the scenic view so much. And the
Mm.
game's ending, it does that game thing I hate, which it has like what feels like an obvious ending, and then it just keeps fucking going. It does that to you like 4 different times in this game.
Really?
Um, yeah, and I would say a speed run of this game feels 15 or 16 hours. I clocked 20 because I did do side stuff in the first half. The second half, I was
Yeah.
trying to beeline it. But
Question for
like,
you, real quickly.
good.
This I know there's two maps. Is the second map, does it feel any different from the first one?
No.
Not
Mm-mm.
okay, because I know that you basically end up doing a lot of the same things on the second map, but just like visually, tonally, does it feel any different from the first map?
A little bit. Like, it doesn't feel like so like crazy fundamental different. It just feels like, oh yeah, it's laid out a little different. Things look kind of different.
Okay.
There's like some parts that, but like objectively, you're very much like, yeah, I'm in the same game. It's not like it feels like a completely different environment. It just feels like a different side of a map. Like
Yeah.
that's really all it feels like.
Got it.
Which is hilarious because it's like, what was the issue with the big ass map? Was there gonna be technical issues? Game runs like shit and looks like shit, man. Like, what? I I don't know, but it's a game that doesn't want you to finish it, which is like one of the most annoying, and like when you're trying to is one of the most annoying fucking things ever.
Hmm.
And it truly bred hate in my heart. Like, I
Oh
went from
man.
like being indifferent to this game to being like, I fucking despise this video game by the end of it. And the loot never gets better. Like, it's the same bullshit. The enemies, there's not like, oh, there's new types. Like, I went from being like, this game 6, maybe a 5, to like, fuck this game, it's a 3. I
Wow.
the enjoyment of the game that I was very indifferent and whatever to.
Hold on a second. Hold on, because you actually froze up for like a good 20 seconds
Yep.
there after you said that you said it went down to a three.
Yeah, like, just truly a game getting in the way of me just trying to finish it. Like, of the modicum of enjoyment I had for this game, to just like throw it out the window in favor of, don't you want more forced content? Like, no, people that are enjoying their time, that are playing with their friends, that want to play 30 hours, they'll go do the fucking side shit. But, and then also the misleadingness, like, but I figured it out. But like some of those main missions that are clearly fucking side mission bullshit, like, I think it's super misleading to like include that in the main campaign, as if you can't finish the game if you don't do it. And then like the look on my face when I realized, because there's two bosses essentially. There's like, well, really, there's like three, but like you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is the whatever lady. Then you realize, fuck, this isn't even it, man. There's a whole nother branch of story missions, and they have another dumb fucking boss. And then you're like, okay, well, let's rush to him, right? Then it makes you do because like you have to do the three skulls and everything, the underbosses. So you're like, for the first lady, fine. You're leading up to that. You're like, this is it, baby. We're done after this. Nope. Now there's the new boss, but you don't even get to rush to them and play it. You have to do three more fucking underbosses and go find
Mm.
three more safe houses, do all those missions, go fight another boss. That's not even the ending. Then they tack on some other bullshit where you have to go through another space, fight another fucking boss, and then finally you're like, you get this sweet relief of ending this piece of shit game. Like,
Oh man,
this game at 7:30 in the morning really pushed me to my mental limits.
7:30 in the morning.
I was ready to throw my Xbox through the fucking window by the end of it. For a
Mm,
game that I was indifferent to last week, I was like,
it's whatever.
mid, it's fine, it's mediocre, kind of sucked, but I'm not even mad at it. Like, who cares? Till like by the end being like, why did I not just put down this game just because I wanted to roll credits on something? I wanted to put it on the list. I despise this game.
Man.
Redfall is a 3. Don't play. Don't force yourself to finish. Like, truly, do not force yourself to finish this game. If you're whatever about it like us, after 5 to 10 hours, just put it down, man. Just walk away. Not worth it.
Yeah,
Not worth it.
maybe I'll go back and finish it. Like if I ever really feel like that pull or desire to play Redfall. But right now I don't feel that pull, and I
Don't
don't
play
see.
any other looter shooter or looter game. Do not play this game again.
Yeah, I don't foresee myself going back to Redfall anytime soon. Between Zelda, Destiny, Final Fantasy, Starfield in September, Spider-Man shortly after that, Diablo and Street Fighter somewhere in the mix as well. New Call of Duty sometime this fall.
Immortals of
Uh,
Avium.
Immortals of Avium in July. Thank you. Forgot about that. Like so many other games, I don't see myself going back to Redfall anytime soon.
That's
So
not
I
including everything that's going to be announced in the summer.
exactly. So I mean,
Don't
not
do
a
it.
giant loss for me. It's just it just adds on more like, damn, I wish you were better for Redfall. I wish it was. Simple as that. All right. All right. Now let's do these brief mentions real quick, and then we're gonna do our Star Wars Jedi Survivor spoiler cast. I was about to say a Street Fighter spoiler cast. Not spoiling that game. It's not even out yet. First up, Street Fighter 6 open beta has been announced to run from May 19th to the 21st. Some of the playable characters are going to be Luke, Jamie, Ryu, Chun-Li, Guile, Kimberly, Jury, and Ken. All awesome. And then there's also going to be ranked, casual, and other match types for play online. Crossplay is also going to be available. There's going to be a couple different stages in it as well. So I'm excited to try to get in there and play as some Kimberly because she's who I've been very hyped about since she was announced. Uh, Horizon Forbidden West has sold 8.4 million units, and the franchise as a whole has sold 32.7 million units. Get ready for the Horizon stage play to be announced at some point in time because the Horizon IP is never going to die. It's going to keep expanding in so many
No,
different ways.
in a lot
uh,
of Horizon games, folks.
PS Plus Extra and Premium games may have been announced. I'm not listing all of them here, but some of the highlights for Extra are Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Watch Dogs Legion, Humanity, Dishonored 2, and the whole new Tomb Raider reboot trilogy. That's all on there. The premium games, those are Siphon Filter, Logan Shadow, Blade Dancer, Lineage of Light, Pursuit Force, and then Ghostbuster, the video game remastered. Cool stuff there. Hollow Knight Silk Song, unfortunately, has been delayed again past the first half of 2023. Of course, all Hollow Knight fans cried out in pain when they heard that news. Although at this point, it was all but a given. I mean, we had heard about it. It was basically all but confirmed. Summer Game Fest partners have been announced. There are over 40 partners, some of which include PlayStation, Xbox, Activision, Ubisoft, WB Games, Capcom, Bandai Namco, Annapurna Interactive, and Square Enix. Of course, there's many others. We'll be hearing more about Summer Game Fest in the coming days, certainly. According to EA's latest earnings report, Dragon Age Dreadwolf won't be released until April 2024 at the earliest. I feel bad for all the Dragon Age fans that are looking forward to this because they've been for a hot minute. It's not coming anytime soon.
Yeah, but I think they'd probably all rather wait than because like when
Of course.
EA like releases a game too quick, it's gonna be dog shit.
Of course, like they'd rather wait. I mean, EA's been with their single player games at the very least recently in recent years. They've been quality, so you can only hope that this will be quality too. But it's
Yeah, you'd
just
rather
like
just wait.
right. It's just like man. Deviation Games has been hit with layoffs. This is the team that was partnered with PlayStation on a first-person shooter, I believe. The reason hasn't been given, but I mean, currently PlayStation is doing portfolio reviews, so probably has something to do with that. Maybe, who knows? Hogwarts Legacy for the Switch has been delayed to November. It was supposed to be July. Now it's November 14th. And probably the more interesting brief mention of all these that could have been a main story on any other week. Private Division Publishing Group has announced that they are working with Game Freak, the developers behind Pokemon, on a new AAA samurai action adventure game. That is wild to think. Game Freak making a samurai AAA action adventure game. I'm into that idea. I want to see what this is going to be.
Yeah, I'll believe it's gonna be good when I see it.
I'm just
Game Freak has not been pushing out the best quality necessarily.
well, that's what I was about to say. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing what they could do on a platform that is not Switch, in a game
Yeah,
series that is
it'll be
not
interesting for
Pokemon.
sure.
Like, I mean, I'm sure they've done. I'm pretty sure they've done games that have not been Pokemon before that were like more smaller indie type games. But like, this is a AAA game. I'm pretty sure they have not done a AAA game outside of Pokemon before. So something like this on that scale, I'm very intrigued, very excited to see what they do. I hope it ends
Yeah.
up being good. All right. This is the point in time where if you don't want to hear Jedi Survivor spoilers, you can bow out the episode. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll be back next week for a whole prediction, summer showcase prediction episode. If you want to stick around, though, it's going to be a fun discussion because I'm very excited to talk about Jedi Survivor with Tyler. Are you ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this is your last chance. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam.
Spoilers.
We are now in the spoilers conversation for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Tyler, after we recorded last week, I played a bit more Saturday. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on the story. And I got off Kobo. And I feel like that initial detour on Kobo when you first get there, it's like the distraction of there's so much you can do. You got to get lost in the open world stuff. But then once you leave again and you get back to the story, oh God, it got so good. It got
That pulled me in,
so good. So freaking good. I loved everything. I loved Marin and the relationship with her. We'll get into that. I loved the Seer and just how her relationship with everyone, how that dynamic evolved, what she's been up to. Cal, how he's just been how he just goes places throughout this story, just internally.
I told you he's such a more interesting protagonist by the end of the game.
So much more interesting. Oh my God. Bode, which I called it from the beginning of the game, but I was still surprised.
I didn't call it, but I was like, what a great villain. Like, truly,
Yes.
what a great villain. Like, so much of a better villain than fucking, what's his name?
I could never remember his name. Dagon something or whatever. I could never remember. There you go. Could never remember.
Dagon Gera sucked, I thought, personally. I thought he was super lame. And it was like, this is what I was talking about when I said, it almost makes it feel like it would, you had to have it in order to get to the good villain and the good twist, but it does make you feel like if you had all this back end stuff planned, we could have maybe shortened up some of the story missions and early on, like some of it felt a little fillery in hindsight if it wasn't going to end with the Dagon Gera stuff, which again, good thing because everything else that follows was objectively better. But like story wise, but it was like, did we maybe trim the fat a little bit? But I digress. Ultimately, still fucking phenomenal, man. Like, what a good knife twist. Like, genuinely, the relationship stuff with him and Marion, I was just like so on board so early. I was like, hell yeah. But I was like, don't blue balls us, the audience. I was like, please, dear God, like, don't let this be a thing where people have a million fucking YouTube theories on why this and that. I'm like, just tell us, is it happening or not happening in the game? And then we got to the end, and I was like, or we get further along. I'm like, yeah, they're just telling us. I was
Yeah.
just, it's, but that's what I was talking about specifically, where it's like the character progression, even more like the story is interesting, but the story is also kind of like, well, yeah, but we think this is where it's going, but where do we go from here? I don't know if it's in the most interesting spot as much as I just think the character stuff, like I want to see what happens with these characters because I love them so much by the end.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like the story is overall is a better story than Fallen
oh, for
Order.
sure. Yeah.
But
Undeniably.
I feel like kind of like what you just said, the story, the narrative is not the story's strongest point, actually. The story
It's
itself is fairly, I think you could say, basic or bare bones to an extent.
till the knife
Whereas,
twist, then I
right,
think
that's the thing. It's all the character stuff that makes this story so much stronger. Like the back half stuff with the twist and everything, which I mean we could say it here. We can find out that Bode was actually he's a traitor. He was working for the Empire the whole time, and he's actually a Jedi with a red lightsaber, and he's trying to now he wants to go to Tanalorr with his daughter and just keep it just for themselves and all. Like that twist, like makes that is a more interesting story, I think, than everything we had before. And that's not to say that everything with Dagon Gera and Centauri Cree in the past. That's not to say that none of that was interesting. It's just that in comparison, it's just like, oh, like that's way more interesting. And
it
all the Dagon Gera stuff, it's kind of like standard Star Wars, I guess you could say.
yeah, it everything with Dagging Era, everything pre there was a lot of good character stuff, but it
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't feel like it was focusing on it enough, or like towards that point, you're like it was giving Horizon Forbidden West. I'm not gonna lie to you. It felt like it was getting incredibly convoluted and just like expecting me to give a shit about lore that I don't give a shit about. And I was just like, it's better than Fallen Order. Like I've got these moments I can cling on to, but ultimately, and then it's just like hits the gas, and you're like, all right, let's go. You
Mm-hmm.
understood it was that moment. It almost feels like, and I know this isn't how game development works, but it definitely had the vibes of someone in the room being like, guys, it can't end this way, right? And then someone just like, I've got an idea. But it was just, it finally understood what, honestly, like, what makes the good Star Wars good has always been characters. It's like
Mm-hmm.
in a cool setting. It's not about the dumbass lore about midichlorians. And I hate this millennial reclaiming of the first of the like prequel trilogy. They suck, guys. Like,
The
I'm
prequels
sorry,
are good.
they're garbage. No, they're
Revenge
not.
of the Sith is one of the best Star Wars movies.
Oh God, get out of here. They're
Nope.
terrible. And I
Nope.
saw them and I liked them as a kid and I rewatched them as an adult. And objectively, those movies fucking suck. And the reason they suck is everything pre that knife twist. It just doesn't focus on characters at all. They're wooden characters with dialogue that we could never in a million years care about. Like, I'm sorry, could not never care about Anakin and Padme. Cal and Mirren, fucking here for it, man. They are
Okay,
so,
hold on. Let's
so
let's
great.
talk about that because when you get to Jeddah and you're doing stuff with the Marin and they're having their dialogue and all, and
And you're like, oh, this is
the whole time I'm thinking I'm like, okay, like it's been some time, maybe some stuff went on with them in between, and the whole time I'm sitting here thinking I'm like, all right, so I'm like, I wonder where this is gonna fall on the horny scale by the time we get to the end of this game. And then you're doing that awesome set piece against the giant machine. And then like well actually no before that we get to the campfire scene. Like they're in the fire, they kind of like cuddle up, and I was like, okay, this is getting kind of high on the horny scale right now. It's getting kind of high.
I know.
and
I
then
was like, yeah, let's go.
and then we get to the giant set piece and everything, and then they finally kiss, and I was like, yes. I was
Yeah,
like,
it was
yes, there you
feels
go,
like such
let's
a
do it.
fist pump moment early on. It's like
Yes.
legit. I clung to that moment through some of the dregs of the game. I was just like, they're not going to bonus, right? Please don't screw us
The
on this.
whole time I was like, for the love of God, you better not kill Marin. I
There
swear
were
to God, if you
legit
kill
moments where I was
Marin,
just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But let's get to the part we all care about here.
I was like, don't kill Marin, don't kill Marin. I'm so happy she survived. But no, that whole set piece, real quick, in right after they kiss, and then you're doing just like the flying through the portals and
So
stuff. I
cool.
was like, yo, like I posted it on Twitter. I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is too cool. Like, I feel like that right there is just like a sign of why we need more PS5 new gen exclusive only games, because like that is something that like I can't imagine being done to that level on PS4 or whatnot. I mean, Wizards, over at Gorilla have been able to and Sony Santa Monica God of War, incredible stuff cross gen. But like I could only imagine what they could have done if it was PS5 exclusive. So like
Yeah,
seeing this, I was like, yo, awesome moment, paced super well, crazy, just like high stakes action. But yeah, Marin and his relationship and Cal's relationship was so well done. Just them
yeah.
both being like a pillar for each other to rely on, and Marin being that strong pillar for Cal, being like, no, like I will be there to pull you back if I see you getting to that edge, that knife's edge of going to the dark side. And each time she like that one time there in the Imperial base, he's about to like crush this dude. And she's like, no, like I'm not about to lose you. We lost everything else. I can't lose you. I was just like, yes, Marin, stand up for your man, save your
Oh, it
man.
was, it's so good. Cal immediately ascended to like elite tier Star Wars protagonist. Like,
Yes.
truthfully, someone I could not give a rat's ass about in the first game to just like they turned it around. Those crazy sons of bitches did it. Like,
Yes.
I just couldn't believe it. It's someone that like in the first game it just feels so much like it's like the special boy vibes of like of he's just a Star Wars special boy to just like no, like I care about him now. Like I want him to have a good life. Don't mess this up, Cal. Like stop it.
Right.
And
Like,
and Bode
he's
even makes that good like Bode makes sense earlier in the game when he's just like you have to think beyond like what is the Jedi Order doing for you right now? And then obviously in hindsight, you're like, of course you'd say that, you son of a bitch.
right. I think it was
But
Bo who said like, you deserve to have a happy life too, or something like that, something
yeah,
along those lines. Like it was such a good thing, such a good line. Um, and I just love, how Cal battle. He's like, he even said he's like, like I'm scared of like, we get to Tanalore and then like the fight's done. Like, like we'll beat the Empire. Like I don't know anything outside the fight. Like what do I do? Like it is just like added so much depth and nuance to his character. Just moments like that, or just like moments where he would just say nothing, but just like give a look. I was just like, oh my god, I'm loving it.
yeah, like that Respawn hadn't really, if you think about it, either Zampella and them going even back to like COD stuff, ever really stepped outside of the like bombastic. There's some intimacy with Titanfall 2, and I think that's like what a lot like obviously some of the mission structure and everything there is brilliant and an all-timer, but like story-wise it's very cute. It's like it's simple though, and it's like they did some bombastic stuff. They had some personal moments, and I think that's what resonated with people so well in Titanfall 2. But this just like like honing in on that even a little bit more is what separates it. Like without that, I'm not like, yo, you gotta finish it, you gotta finish it. I like I felt like okay, they'll resonate with him because of course they will. They resonate with us because we're people, and it's like when I talk about the prequels not being good, like for example, Anakin horniness feels like off put and weird. Like it was shoehorned in because we know he's the dad of Leia and Luke, and it's got to happen somehow. So now this freak's got to procreate. Whereas like Cal just feels like a regular person, man. Like he's just one of everyone else, and like yeah, he's like lonely, and Marin's caked up over here, and he's just like yo, and so he's just like whoa, whoa, whoa. But without being creepy or if like it's naturally there, and so it's just they really do a good job of just making the subtle dialogue of making it feel natural, and the way they place it within this giant, Star Wars lore heavy story just feels so well done. Like really hats off to them because it is, like I said, the first time like towing into this territory. And yeah, I love that for them. I also love that I think so much of the positive response to Star Wars comes from that. Um,
Yeah.
is people like really clinging on to and rooting for those story elements. Um, and then of course there's all the YouTube stuff. First grade Jedi, like I hate like fanfic sometimes or like just like
Mhm.
because it's like they've been clinging on to this stuff forever. And yes, it's admittedly cool when Cal touches. I guess I just really hate the term gray Jedi. It sounds so fucking corny. Like it's not as cool as people that use it think it is, but it is. The moments they like let Cal give into the dark side are objectively cool. Like
Yeah, like that
super sick.
that whole rampage in the Imperial base, I was like, I was abusing that. I mean, I like the game forces you. It's like, no, you're gonna have to use this ability to get through some of these fights. Otherwise, it's gonna be a major pain. So, but like I was like, nah, we're doing it anyway because like I need you because like, nah, this is just ridiculous. Like y'all gonna feel this, y'all gonna get
It
this work today.
it also gives story context to why, like, I mean, objectively, is it kind of dumb to decide to explain it away? Yeah, and like unfair, but also kind of get why some people are cis if it shit is on easy mode like this versus how I have to fight people as being a regular Jedi. It makes sense how some of the Sith boss fights are so incredibly hard because they just apparently are able to stop time and are wizards, and like meanwhile as a
Yeah.
Jedi you're just like this is kind of hard.
Like, man, I'm in danger. But
Like I
like,
could do some cool stuff as a Jedi, but nothing this level.
right. But like, you get to that boat boss fight in the end, and the story, like as the part of the story, it makes you use it once to get through that fight. But like after that, I tried not to use it during that fight because I was like, no, like I'm Cal, and Cal does not want to use the dark side. He doesn't want to go back down that path. So I was like, I'm gonna try not to use it anymore outside of this one instance where I need to during the fight. And ultimately, when I beat it, I had to use it one more time because I was like, I'm over this. I'm trying to finish this game right now. So I did,
Yeah.
and I managed to get to the fight. But no, that was such an interesting thing, and it's something where like the game naturally, it wasn't something where it's like him embracing the dark side kind of came out of nowhere. Like it was something where the way the game's story was and the way Cal's character development was going throughout the game, it was clearly building up to him doing like embracing the dark side in some way, shape, or form. Like
It
we
did
see
feel in
that he like
retrospect
like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's been battling the empire on the run for years. He's seen losses, so many losses over the years. He lost his whole crew at the very beginning of the game. Like all this is just weighing down
what's her
on
name? Was
him.
her name Babs or something? Damn, that wouldn't.
I forgot about it, but yeah, that was a tough one. I was like, oof.
Because you were just like, oh, already we got some interesting character moments. You like at first hour, you're definitely thinking that's where the horny meter goes.
Well, I
And
mean, at the
then
beginning of the game,
now,
I knew that they were all red shirts with the exception of Bo. Like, it was just like, all right, clearly y'all are wearing the red shirts here for
oh,
sure.
see, I know. I mean, I didn't think they were gonna cut them that quick. Like some of them, I assume someone's gonna be lost. I certainly don't think they're gonna get rid of like some of the people with more chemistry, towards uh like especially with good relationships with Cal, where it seems like they get along. And
Yeah.
then they did.
Yeah. And like it was actually that beginning part of the game where when you're escaping Coruscant and Bo says, I'm gonna go this way, to like distract some of them, and he left. In that moment, that was the moment that planted the seed of doubt in my mind. I was like, watch Bo betray us at some point in this game. I was like, watch him be like a sleeper agent, like a spy of some sort. Like he's leaving because like it's one of those things in a narrative where like the character leaves and you're like you don't know what they're actually up to and all like that, and something about him just made me think. I was like, watch him actually be an Imperial spy. So when that twist happened, I wasn't surprised that he was an Imperial spy. I was like, oh, okay, well, I called this in hour one of the game. But I was surprised when it's like, oh, you're not just an Imperial spy, you're a Jedi. I was like, oh, that's actually crazy. That blew my mind. I was like,
It
oh
adds in,
man,
it ties into the theme of Jedi Survivor, another one that survived Order
exactly.
66. How everyone survives different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
It,
I just, man, what a game! Like
yeah,
they really just, they nailed it, man. Like I just
yeah,
truly, um, and I will say, like, I think I think Cal now being a point like makes this more of a viable franchise. It feels like it's not so much a tied to the game that's a Dark Souls game. Like we all care about Cal, we all care about Mary, like giving us things to like earnestly root for beyond just whatever Jedi lore crap they're gonna throw at the screen.
yeah,
Um and like Yeah, I think I'll say combat wise, I really like how all the stances ultimately felt to like how are you going to play? Like I do think
Mhm.
if you like are defense heavy and want it to be more Souls like, especially on the harder difficulties, like I can see the cross guard saber making like way more sense. Because it just felt so sluggish, but also like very like did a good job of breaking the stamina meters, which I still have an issue with the stamina meters. I just need to get
Yeah,
um
I actually when I first started the game, I was using the single and the double blade, not the dual wield, but the Darth Maul style double blade for a good portion of the beginning of the game. But I think when I went to Jeddah, I switched to using the dual wield
the dual wield is the
and
way.
the double
Yeah.
blade. And then once I got the cross guard, I was like, I'll do dual wield and cross guard. And I did that for a bit. But then I said, I like the cross guard, but that's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to the dual wield and double blade, and that was my way for the rest of the game. And then once I got the blaster, I only used the blaster in that immediate tutorial. I said, "Hey, use it, pal." I was like, and I will never use you again because I don't care enough. Like you don't feel anywhere near as good as the dual wield or the double blade. You just don't.
The dual wield was like, hey guys, remember how Bloodborne's the best Souls game? What if we
All
did
gas,
that
no
for
brakes.
here? All gas, no brakes, baby.
I knew that was
Defense
gonna be
is for
you for sure.
suckers.
I knew that was gonna be you for sure. I was like, as I was playing more and more, I was like, oh, he loves this. I know he's gonna love
Yeah,
this.
it felt so
All gas,
good.
no brakes, just like bam, 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 bam. Yeah, it felt. Yeah, I really loved that. I like how I feel like there were more shortcuts available in this game more frequently, as well as more fast travel, not fast meditation points. I feel like there were more of them in this game as opposed to Fallen Order. Yeah, I
It was a
liked all that.
conservative it was a concerted effort to like listen, some people like that the combat's hard and they like the Souls element, but we can't design the game around that again because that was too much of a deterrent for people. I guarantee there were internal conversations of EA being like, your game doesn't get to be that fucking hard again. We're sorry. It just doesn't. Like, you're
Yeah.
not Souls. This is Star Wars. People want it to be fun and easy. And so I guarantee they were like, well, how do we keep the fundamental combat that we've implemented, give them more tools, but also like we can't have the game feel so like long stretches. We can't make people backtrack around. And so I think like hats off to them. They came up with really
Mm-hmm.
practical ways to like keep kind of what I imagine their original vision was and some of the difficulty if you so need it. I still think taking the stamina bars out would have been great. There's no stamina bars in Souls, guys. Like I don't get what their weird hang up on that is. But other than that, like everything else felt, especially common enemies, just felt like you could mow them down more, which makes sense power level wise, right? Like they
Yeah.
could get you in theory if you're slacking enough, but you don't feel like you have to get up for every single fight. Like you can just clear certain enemies with ease. Whereas like obviously there's ones where you got to like sit up in your chair a little bit more, pay more attention.
Did you
Really
did you have to,
just like,
did you have to did you have to sit up in your chair for Rick the door technician?
I did not, but I hate the meme where everyone's acting like he's the hardest boss fight, but I thought it was such a good gag in the game. Like I
No,
did. I
yeah,
thought
that
it was
that
brilliant.
was funny. That was a funny one. I liked that. I was like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm just like, you are. I was like, okay,
I was like, are they
damn.
gonna? And then I just did. And I was like, oh, I got it. And like, it was a great gag. But God, the internet's so annoying the way
No,
they're
yeah, the
just,
internet runs jokes into the ground for sure.
yeah, for sure. It's just like, oh yeah, this is why we can't have nice things.
Right. I mean, I've only seen one, but I'm not surprised that there's probably a bunch out there making a bunch of memes
Yeah.
about it and all like
Don't ever
that.
go in the YouTube comments of a video about it. Like,
Oh dear lord, dear lord.
so annoying. Yeah.
Speaking about your Souls thing, real quick, about how you said like this isn't UIs aren't Souls, you are Star Wars. That gets into one of my main gripes with this game, and I think it might be my only one actually. No, technically, well, real quick, technically, this game is like rough. Like you like
At times, yeah.
loading
I
into
didn't have as
worlds.
much. This is sorry, just real quick. This is one of those rare situations where I didn't have a lot of issues the way other people did, but I've been on the other side of it, and so I feel like, but ultimately it doesn't affect my view of the game that much because I only had like 3 crashes, which in hindsight feels very good, and
Mhm.
not a lot of dipping, not a ton. There's a little bit, but not a ton.
I think I had one crash, maybe two. And I know one of the crashes I had, I was trying to finish this fight and I kept on dying. One time I
Oh,
died and I was going back to the fight. It was the fight where you're on Kobo, you're going inside the Luca Hulk with a Bode, and you go into this room and it's two of the Bedlam Raiders and one of the big droids, right? And so you have to fight them in like this real small space. And I kept dying and dying and dying on it. So then I was like, I'm going back to the fight, and then the game crashed. I was like, I'm done for the day. I was like, that's my sign to clock out. But no, technically, um, definitely a whole lot of like texture taking a bit of time to load in. When you go to a new planet, like I was like, okay, noticeably taking a bit longer, taking a bit of time to load in the textures. And also the frame rate. Again, I mean, I played on quality mode. I don't know how it is a performance mode, but on quality mode, if you go anywhere near water, that frame rate tanks immediately. Also, in some even in areas that were near water, sometimes during fights, the frame rate would just like drop during the fight. That was just like annoying. Also, the frame the this is how I know the game's cutscenes were real time cutscenes, because the frame rate for cutscenes sometimes would also dramatically tank. Like the frame rate during, I think, the fight against Dagangara, the final fight against Dagangara, frame rate was definitely tanking during some of those cutscenes. The fight against Bode at the end, frame rate was tanking during those. So like it was kind of all over the place. And it definitely took me out of some of those cutscenes when the frame rate definitely dropped into like the 20s. It's like, all right, now, like we're in the
Yeah.
20s and back up to 30. It's just like, all right, like, come on now. Let's get it together.
I think so. I really don't have a lot of technical gripes, whereas I did with Fallen Order. God,
I did with that one too, where like I would literally see enemies T pose into their position where they need to be after respawning.
my my end feeling was like it's not a 10. I don't think it's a perfect game, but I think what happened was they were like, this game has to be a hit. I think Fallen Order was successful, but not quite the hit that EA wanted, or even probably Respawn internally wanted. But so I think this was like the kitchen sink games. They threw in every idea, they wanted to fully realize it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the end result is it's less of like a defined, like very narrow vision that like feels like perfected from one end to the other, but there's like peaks and valleys, and there are moments that are going to hit for some people and pop for some people and not for others. And that's okay, because the end result is it feels like it's a 9 for a lot of people. And that's, they'd rather have like some people 10, some people are 6. Instead of that, they're like, we want like everybody to really like this game. Some people will love it. We're good with 8s to 9s across the board. We just don't want any more 5s or 6s, even if that comes with some people not giving it a 10.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I totally understand the creative vision for that. And I loved my time with it. I think it was a damn good game. And like I said, in hindsight, it just made me go and drop my score for Fallen Order, because playing them back to back, the stark difference is
Yeah.
just like incredible, like truly incredible growth. Couldn't be more like, it doesn't matter to them, but couldn't be more proud of Respawn. Like really just getting to play those back to back and seeing like, damn, you guys just progressed and made so many smart changes, and just like fundamentally like seeing the level design implementations where I don't really need a map anymore, just little stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course the big stuff being the story, like really just hats off.
Yeah. Um, but I wanted to say, like I said before, you had mentioned like your Star Wars, not Souls games. Uh, I hate how this game forces you to restart boss fights from the very beginning if you die on them, especially when they're multi-phase boss fights.
Yeah, the
This was
Dagan I dropped the difficulty for the end game ones. The Dagan stuff was bullshit, and so Bode was to an extent too.
I
But
only died on
especially
Dagon.
Dagan.
I only died on him once actually. And
Ooh,
that was because of my fault. Like it was he did one of those moves where he swung his lightsaber and a bunch of waves came, and I dodged the wrong way and I fell into it. So then I had to start over again. So I was only once, maybe twice I died on that fight. But no, my issue with it came with the Darth Vader fight and the Bode fight. Darth Vader, because I kept getting to
Vader was
well,
nuts, but
I have two issues with the Vader fight, but I'll say that for a moment. But Bode, it was the third phase of his fight where after you end up on that second level, the lower level, and then you see the cutscene after that. Also, Marin, I'm actually said you distract him. I'll attack from the shadows. Does nothing for the rest of the fight. Essentially, just
I
basically just
know
dips out. I was like useless.
they didn't
Um,
want to make the fight easy. That was clearly what it
right.
was.
But no, like I kept dying on that third phase, and I was like, bro, this not necessarily a hard fight, but like it's so annoying when you have these phases with multiple fights with multiple phases to them, and you die. And it's like, you're not even going to start me at the phase beforehand. I got to start all the way at the beginning. Got to run it back into the room, go through the same cutscenes again. I can skip the cutscenes, although with the Bode one, you can't skip that part where you're flying around the room and everything. I was like, I got to see those things again, get back to the point I was at before, just to die there again and then do all. It's like, you're not so, you want to be Souls, you're not Souls. At the very least, have me start the phase beforehand. Don't make me run back into the room, do the fight all over again, because that's annoying. And I damn near dropped the difficulty to easy on Bode just to finish the game because it was the last boss. But I was like, no, I shouldn't have to do that. The Darth Vader fight, the same issue applies there, with the compounded effect of the fact that you fucking have to, you die anyway. Which, side note, I loved playing as Sarah. She was super cool. But like, you're gonna die. She's going to die in this part. I hate in a game where it's like, okay, you're going to lose this fight anyway, but you have to win the fight in order to lose the fight.
Dude,
it's like,
it's a pet peeve of mine as well.
It's so annoying. It was like, I knew she was gonna die. I kept getting to the third phase of that fight and kept on dying. And I'm like, bruh, I was like, Sarah, you better live or else this is all bullshit. And she still died anyway. And I was like, it sucks that you died, but I hate that I had to win this fight to see you die when this could have just happened anyway. And I understand game devs, you might want your cinematic moments with all the fight and everything. I get it, but like, from a player perspective, it is the most annoying thing to die at the end of a fight that you are told you need to win.
The reason why I hate like the majority of the boss fights in this series is because it throws out the logic of the rest of the combat system, where Souls never will do this. If you get behind like if you dodge roll your way around an enemy, you stab them in the back, that's damage lost. Instead, this game wants to give them like the most insane fucking stamina bars. It's incredibly hard to damage them, and they have like these basically like every other attack is literally unblockable. It's like, this is bullshit, and you have to be like insanely good at parrying to make these fights easy. And they're like, in this one, especially in the first half, I would say like a lot of that felt a little more ironed out, felt a lot more doable. But the second I got to Dag and Gera, which is ironic that we didn't have as many
second
issues
fight
with them,
or
but
third fight?
The third one. The first two were actually pretty reasonable. Yeah, I was like, what about okay, Revis? Cool. Revis, not as much of an issue. Fought him like 2 or 3 times, got through it, but like, I felt like, oh, I know where to improve there. Blah blah blah. It was really like the end game stuff where they were like, well, it's the end game, so he's got to have all these unblockable attacks, and it's like, no, he really doesn't. I promise people will still like the game because it just is inconsistent with the logic of this game. Like, I'm getting around him, blah blah blah, and then it's like, okay, but I'm losing because I don't play defense. I've established this throughout my entire playthrough, and now like all of a sudden you give me an entirely defense-based fight because this guy just does nothing but throw out unblockable attacks. So you're just like constantly just all you're doing is dodging, and I have to be fine with one hit every 60 seconds. Like, no, I'm gonna get impatient with this fight. That's ridiculous. So like that's my general, and I felt like they fell into that trap way more in Fallen Order. It only seemed to be more of an end game thing with the last couple fights with Gera, Vader, and then the last Bode fight were just like, to me, all like horseshit. I was like, no, we're bumping the difficulty down for this shit because I'm not doing it.
But and like it's, for me, it wasn't necessarily the unblockable thing. It was more so parrying, because I'm not the best at parrying.
I'm not.
So it's like some of them, like you're trying to learn their moves, and like they do like 4 to 5, 6 attacks in a row where you have to parry each and every one of them and then dodge out the way of the unblockable. And it's like, bro, like I'm trying to get my parries down right. Like I'm trying to get them good so I can take down your stamina bar. And it's like, maybe I missed one, maybe I didn't parry the right way, and it's just like, man, like it's just a pain in the ass. And that was why I died so much, because it's like my parry timing was off, and then like, or I misread a move where I should have parried and I dodged instead, and it just like threw me off. It was just like so annoying, so annoying, and like it was super compounded in that Vader fight for me.
Yeah, and what makes Souls good is that, again, it respects its own logic pretty much always. You don't have to parry to win fights. You are allowed to just like, I can't parry, so I'm going to dodge roll the shit out of this guy, get behind him, and just get a couple good stabs in and make that my strategy. And as long as like you avoid the attack pattern. Souls is just like, okay, yeah, like that's the internal logic of this game. But this game, it's almost like being Star Wars and having the power levels to this. They're like, well, they've got to be incredibly hard. And so it's just like, you're breaking the logic of your own game here. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's
Shout out
just
to the
infuriating.
DualSense. Shout out to the DualSense. DualSense with this game, so good. The
Oh,
haptics, so good. So,
also,
so good.
shout out to the customization of this game. Made it feel so much more personalized. The sabers were sweet.
Oh yeah,
Cal,
making
like
Cal look the way I wanted him to.
I started unironically making him wear the mullet towards the end of the game.
I didn't. I think I gave him like a bit of a stubble, like with the beard and everything with the facial hair.
Yeah, I didn't go
But
crazy long with the beard.
yeah, and then like his outfit for me, it was the outfit, the chest that has like the cape on the back. I gave him that one, and then he had I think one of like the clone armor pants, and then arms as well. I was just like, that's my Cal. It
I
looks like he's on a journey, like he's been through it.
I went sleeveless like almost the entire game. I was like, you know what? Cal's got a little white trash. He's
I was
also
about
the
to
funny
say,
part
I
is
don't look like
he's
redneck
the
white
actor
trash.
from Shameless in that show is like
Yeah.
white trash, white trash. So I was like, Cal's got a little white trash to him. Let's embrace that. And it's funny too because like I saw whenever I was looking up like how do you, it was one of the fights, and so I was like, I'm not alone in this, right? So I pull up the YouTube video, and they've got him looking like episode 8 Luke. I'm like, you've got Cal looking like some turbo virgin. Like my Cal fucks, man. Absolutely. And meanwhile, this guy looked like he took an oath of celibacy. Like, get out of here.
No, yeah. My Cal looks like AL, like Baron, you wanna go to the back of the mantis real quick? You wanna go to the back of the mantis? You wanna have some fun on the workbench? We
Yeah,
can,
like
work on something that's not a lightsaber,
you
maybe?
know what's funny too? Like towards that end scene where it's like the fire and like when they're like before you find out
Oh my
Bode
god.
betrayed you. I'm like, yo, did they just fuck? I feel like it's implied, right? Like a
I would
hundred
like to
percent.
I would like to think that they did. I would like to think they did. I mean, Cal said, like, hey yo, like the Jedi Order, it's not around anymore. I gotta follow my heart, I want you.
My
I
man had
want
the
you,
moves at the end.
man.
Yeah,
Like, Cal, go get that. Go get that. I want that for you. I
good
want
for
y'all to,
them. Yeah,
I mean, I know you all have seemingly adopted Bode's daughter, but I want you all to have a Jedi Knight sister child as well. Let's cross the stream some. Have a little fun. Have a little fun.
I mean, I'm not gonna say Cal needs kids, but I'm glad that canonically he fucks.
Yes, they 100% deserved it, the two of them. Oh man. All right. That was a fun
What a game.
conversation.
What would you
Great
give it?
game.
Just last but not least, what's your score?
Um,
What's your score?
I think my score would be, I think when I finished it, I was feeling 8.5 at the lowest. I'm feeling 8.5 or a 9 on this one. Um, the technical issues for sure bring it down for me. That boss fight design stuff also annoys me. Uh, Again, the heavy reliance on parries just throughout the game, not boss fights, but like heavy reliance on parrying in the game. That's a personal thing for me, really, because I'm not the best at parrying in this game specifically. I got good at it when in certain fights, but other times it's like, all right, I think I'm doing it right here,
Yeah,
but it's just not working out. So like that's still an annoyance, but that's a personal issue. It's not like a game itself issue. But I like everything else, like the game itself, as I said before, it's a stark improvement over Fallen Order in just about every way. From what I can remember Fallen Order being, this is just a stark improvement over it.
don't go
Gameplay
back.
wise, story wise, character wise, design wise, it's just head over shoulders better.
I would earnestly say for anyone out there, if they just play Survivor, do not go replay Fallen Order. It like this Survivor makes Fallen Order unplayable in my opinion.
Wow. I mean, I can't say that you're wrong, but I can understand that perspective. Just like just going by just like how improved this game is with the features and everything, like for sure, like not having a backtrack or being able to fast travel to places, it automatically just like makes this a way better experience than Fallen Order was. So great game. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to whatever the next one is, whenever that comes out, whatever that story is going to be. I'm sure like they can only go up. They can't go down from here. They can only go up. Uh,
Yeah.
so it should be a good one. So yeah, that's it. That's it for Fallen Order, not Fallen Order, for Jedi Survivor. fantastic game. And that's it for this episode of the podcast. Episode 107.
Only 2 more left, man.
Books. Only 2 more left. So here's how it's gonna go. I kind of teased it a bit before. Next week's episode 108, we're gonna be doing predictions for summer showcases. We're going to be predicting what we think will be at Sony's, at Xbox's, Nintendo's Direct, whenever that happens, if it happens, and a Summer Game Fest prediction as well, predicting what Jeff Keighley will have in store for us there. That's going to be next week's episode. Fingers crossed, Sony actually has a showcase the following week, because if they do, the final episode, we will be talking all about, we'll be recapping that showcase, talking all about that. And of course, we'll be talking about Zelda in the coming weeks too. Maybe any other news next week or the following week. We'll be talking about that. If there's no showcase that final week, of course, it'll just be a news week. In addition to, we'll be doing hot takes, talk about any hot takes we have.
Have you already said that like who else is going to be on the pod for that?
I don't know if I did, but I was going to say that.
Okay, sorry.
We might be doing Monkey's Paw again, depending on time, depending on how that last episode goes. That last week goes, we might do Monkey's Paw again. And also, Kieran will be joining us again for the final episode of the Play to Win podcast. I told him that, he already knows everything that's going on. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun final episode. And I anticipate that final episode, and maybe these next 2, depending on how our predictions go. But that last episode might be a bit of a lengthy one, given it's the final episode and it's everything that we may have to talk about in that one. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's what the next 2 weeks are looking like in terms of Play to Win.
Truly, it is our No Way Home episode.
The No Way Home, all 3 eras. Well, not 3 eras, but you get what I mean.
You're Holland. You're the consistent one.
I'm Holland. So then, who would you be? Would you be?
I'm Garfield.
You're Garfield. Yeah, I feel it. I feel it with the energy too. You're Garfield. Yeah. Karen would be Maguire. I'd be Holland. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's call it Play. I don't know what I want to title that last episode. I mean, if the showcase happens that week, it'll be showcase something or whatever. But like, if not, the final episode, Play to Win, No Way Home, No Way Back.
Yeah, I was about to say call it No Way Home.
Something.
The analogy's perfect.
Something. It'll be fun. But that's it. That's the plan for the next few weeks. That said, this is it. End of the episode. Check out the site, playtowinggameswordpress.com. So home for all the content. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at playtowingame for updates on the show and other things that may get posted over there. And of course, leave a like and a comment on YouTube. Share the show with everyone. 5-star review on podcast services and subscribe there for, however long we're here. The last 2 episodes. Leave a comment down below. Let us know how you are enjoying Tears of the Kingdom so far. Let us know your experience with it, how far you are in it. If you're enjoying it more than Breath of the Wild, or if you're kind of in the same boat as Tyler, where you're like, Breath of the Wild, I like more, and I'm hopeful about this, but I'm cautious. I'm trepidatious with Tears of the Kingdom. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Tyler, where can people find you?
Good Game We Lost on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
Lovely. You can find me on Twitter at TylerMiller2496. I'll be talking about Zelda over there. It's a great time. It's a great game. I'm really loving it. That said, thank you all so very much for watching and or listening. We will talk with you all next time. Have a good one.
Good one, everyone.